All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Chris Goegan, President of Engineered Growth Systems. And today, this webinar, we're going to talk about how to engineer your marketing for massive growth in this economy. Some quick housekeeping before we get going. If you have questions, there's a Zoom bar at the bottom of the screen. And there's a thing in there, a chat on there. Depends where it comes up. Say chat, just click on chat and then type your question in, and then I'll get to the questions. If I cannot get to the questions, what I'll do is I'll look at answering your question privately over the next few days here, and get back to you with it. So anyhow, let's get after it. All right, so how to engineer your marketing for massive growth in this economy. So you've had success. Now it's time to take that success to a whole new level. And so questions that when I talk with people, and I've been talking with a lot of people lately, is these are typical things that come up for them. How do you take something that you've done so well on a small scale and leverage it to make it go big? And I'm assuming that that's why we're here, because you're at one level of success, you enjoyed it, and you're just looking for ways, opportunities, just to get to that next level, whatever that next level is. So other questions that I hear quite a bit is, how do you communicate the value of the service you provide to the bigger market? And that's actually quite common, because a lot of people, they're technicians, like they're in the work. So when it comes to marketing and selling of the work, it's a different mindset and different way to look at things. So how do you communicate that value? And how do you grow without creating a ton of work for yourself? And yes, I did spell that ton Canadian way. It's not a misspelling. Canadian ton is bigger, so that without creating bigger workload for yourself. So how do you do that? What technology do you need, and how do you pull those technology pieces together? So there's a lot of technology out there, a lot of softwares, email blast softwares, ad software, just a lot of different softwares. As an engineer, I'm very familiar with a lot of different pieces out there. What traffic sources are the best to fuel growth right now? So you're pulling in leads, and those leads are sticking. And another very common question. So, and this is something that's come up a lot recently. Almost every conversation I've had with people is centered around this. It's like, what about new opportunities from this pandemic? How do you go after those so you're number one in the market? Because whenever there's a massive shift, it creates new opportunity. And now, first of all, I feel bad for what's going on right now. I feel bad for people who've been affected by this, who have lost loved ones from this, and also there's might be a very big hit with the economy like coming from this as well. So my heart goes out to to those people. And what I do know is that whenever there's opportunities, there's great potential. So I have a client of mine was mentored by a billionaire in the financial services space, and this billionaire was apparently a very stoic person. And they asked my client, said, "Did you ever see him get excited?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Whenever there's like massive downturns in the market, you get excited because there's a big opportunity to back up the truck and to create not just a lot of wealth, but create a lot of value for a lot of people." So so we're going to be addressing some of this stuff. So if you want really to make things go right now, there's two words that are really important: growth and systems. Growth and systems. So if you have growth with systems, that opens up a whole new world to you. And this is really like what I focus on, is growth and systems. So the next 30 to 60 minutes, here's what you will learn: how to take your idea and launch it and grow it. I don't know if anyone really wants or not without spending a lot of money. When I talk about your idea, it's like a lot of people I'm working with, they're already successful and they just want to get to a whole new level. They know it's out there. But they've tried a lot of things. It's all fallen short, but they just want to know how to get there. So, and how to know if someone really wants it, spending a lot of money, the system and process for massive growth. The biggest mistake that virtually every single business owner is making when it comes to growing their business: how to grow a market, how it's traditionally done versus a scientifically developed engineered methodology, and how to have a system that pulls all the pieces together where you're pulling in leads and those leads are sticking. So, and then case studies, I've got a bunch of case studies, I guess you have to have these. So whether or not we'll talk about them all or some or what, but, I've got case studies of, how one client got to 50 million with next target of being 100 million. I've got clients that have built $100 million, $600 million companies. How another client went from 5 million to 10 million while cutting costs by 2 million with only a part-time marketing person. How another client added 135,000 in 6 weeks, so cold market with no list. And on and on and on and on and on. But we'll get to. I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to focus on meat, on teaching and educating. So a little bit of background with me. Here's my my beautiful wife and 3 out of my 4 kids. This picture is actually a little bit old, and I know there's some people on the call with a lot more kids than my 4. But this is after I played hockey in the outdoor stadium at Dodger Stadium. Was a lot of fun. After the Ducks and the Kings played, my men's league team got to have the ice in place. That was a lot of fun. I play hockey from Canada. I do a good Bob and Doug McKenzie impersonation. I've been featured in some different articles, stuff like that. This is me eating seafood platter in San Francisco after doing Ironman, and this is probably my favorite movie, Happy Gilmore. So. All right, and some stats based on 25 years experience. I've been working with small and mid-sized businesses. I work with hundreds of companies in 100 different industries. I've worked with many industry and thought leaders. In about the last 10 years, I put about $65 million in the pockets of small business owners. I've got 10,000 hours in engineering and building high volume systems, 10,000 hours in sales, 10,000 hours in marketing, 10,000 hours in human behavior. This kind of stuff to me is kind of like blah, 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 blah. Let's get to the meat. But my background really, and this part is important, where I spent the first part of my career as a manufacturing engineer for Ford Motor Company. I built high volume manufacturing systems for Ford. It's like our goal is to make 1 million engines defect free every single year. And that's what we did. If you didn't do it, you get fired. And then I went on and I designed and built parts in the International Space Station program. And then I transitioned into sales. I was horrible at it before figuring it out. And then got into marketing over the years. And I've always been a fan of human behavior and human psychology. So, and what I do now is I bring these 3 disciplines together: engineering, sales, and marketing, all into one. Where instead of building high volume manufacturing systems for Ford, I build high volume manufacturing systems, but now we manufacture leads and sales for clients and for businesses. And as an engineer, I've taken apart so many things in my time. I've taken apart different ad platforms, different technologies, different softwares, and put them back together again. And so I'm familiar with intimate details of all the different pieces and also how they all mesh together. And so I've overcomplicated stuff. And then now I'm kind of at the point where I know what's important and what's not important. So my whole goal is to uncomplicate things and to simplify things and simplify growth for you. So that's what we're going to do. And this is what I believe. People ask, well, what is engineered marketing? Engineered marketing, I believe in building repeatable, predictable systems. I believe in what works, not like some fancy, hey, I just read this idea today, let's try this. No, I believe in what works. I believe in using data to make decisions easier. I believe you can automate any system to produce repeatable, predictable results. And automate systems, that's automate with technology and with people. And then you can leverage those systems for massive growth. You get it working at small scale, and then we grow big. And that's really the core of what we're going to talk about today. And then also you can, if something's not working or you want to improve the performance of it, you can take your process and dissect it in smaller pieces and then focus on each one and make continuous improvements. Manufacturing world, it was called CONI, continuous and never-ending improvement. What does this mean? It means you put the work in and then your business works for you, allowing you to scale to any level that the market will support. And I guess like all marketing things have to have some sort of like a hammock on a beach saying how wonderful life can be, right? But the reality is you can get to a point where you've got a business that's working for you rather than you going to work in a business. I was talking to somebody the other day and they're saying like how well they're doing. And it was like, well, you've done, and they've obviously done very well for themselves. Like, but they're the one doing all the work. So I said, what you've got is you've got a really good high paying job. So if you want, you could take that high paying job and turn it into a business where the business works for you instead of the other way around. So and that's a huge difference. You can have more impact, you can help a lot more people, you can make a lot more money. There's just a lot more leverage with that. And that's the core focus of what we're going to talk about today. Michael Gerber, worked with him. He invited me to help him grow some things. Michael's a good friend, and he said some nice things about me here. If you have not read his book, The E-Myth Revisited, go out and get a copy of that today. It's a fantastic book. And you can't be around Michael. Michael's a big dreamer, and Michael's always talking about a dream and a vision. And so it's always for any growth, because once you hit a level of success, you got to want more in order to get more. So it's big question is, what is your vision? What is it? What do you want? And then, so do you feel that there's a whole new level you can get to? And then can you commit to working 2 hours a week to get there? If you can, then you can have great growth. There's, when I did my Ironman a few years ago, we had a Coach Dave. And Coach Dave really changed how I looked at marketing. And it led to a lot of wonderful things. And I'm going to talk about Coach Dave and the impact Coach Dave had and why that's important, you know, and why you can only work, why you can get to where you want to go with working only 2 hours a week to get there. Remember, I'm an engineer. I hate fluff. I hate hype. I hate garbage. I hate BS. But I love systems and I love growth. So, you know, we'll come back and talk about Coach Dave a little bit later on. So, you know, you got to have a vision. You got to have goals. You know, what do you want to accomplish this year? How about next year? How about 3 to 5 years? And then do you have a plan that you have confidence in that'll get you to your goals? If you do, awesome. Keep doing it. You know, keep at it. If not, then what I go over today will probably be will hopefully be interesting and a value to you. So, how to grow a market the traditional way. So get traffic. That's what everybody focuses on. So, and then you do a lot of stuff, throw a lot of money at the walls. It feels good doing stuff, doesn't it? But how are the results? Just about all my, one client's like, Chris, he goes, I just like to do things. I'm a doer. I like to do stuff. I'm a creator. And he goes, but you're like, he goes, I want to do it. What about this? What about that? And he goes, you just tell me, just go over there. But I want to do stuff. And I just go over there and you throw me the ball and I catch the ball and it's like, look, wow, hey, look how far I've moved. I'm so much farther down the road. So I know we all like to do stuff, but you know, working, that old cliche, working smarter, not harder. So you can go after a lot of keywords on LinkedIn connections. So the traditional way, and this is good. And by the way, and a lot of people should be doing this stuff. It's just a matter of how and when. Do social media. Again, another great thing, but how people do it is typically like all messed up. Or they read a lot of articles on the internet that people had great success with, and then they try to implement those in their business. It's got to work, right? I mean, I read this article about this guy. I had a client, after working with him for 3 years, he goes, Chris, I've finally given up the ghost that anything's going to go viral. Meanwhile, he built a very, very, very successful business in the meantime. I'm sure he'll get his viral video at some point in time, but you know, that's not a good strategy to build on. So, so if you've done these things, you know, how well does that work for you? And will that get you to where you want to go? So the biggest mistake that virtually every single business owner is making when it comes to growing a business, focusing on traffic. And because it goes like this, like we need leads, so we must get more traffic. Leads equals traffic, right? And what's wrong with that? Let's part the curtains and see. It's too expensive, a massive waste of time, and results are garbage. My clients have typically burned at least $26,000 in their marketing education, and they've wasted years to get there. Oh, and by the way, at the end of this, I've got a class that it's actually a workshop. It's a learn and do workshop. We're actually going to be building and creating a lot of things that we're going to be going over here together. If you're interested in learning more about that, at the end, I've got a couple slides on it, and we can have a conversation. If you're not interested in it, that's fine. Either way is okay. So anyhow. So just focusing on traffic and leads is a massive waste of time, and the results are typically garbage. So here's what people typically do when they're not getting the results they want. They panic, stress, and yell. They do, and I've been guilty of all of these. Do more of the same faster, and stick your head in the sand. And actually, a lot of people love this. Although it's not more of the same, it's more of the same, but new different things. And then nailing, and then this. So the problem with marketing right now, it's confusing. It's hard to get a lot of good leads. It's hard to know what you should be doing, and who do you listen to? There's so many people out there. I just heard of a guy that's running a marketing program for, it was like how to be a marketing consultant and make six figures, even if you know nothing about marketing and can't sell your way out of a paper bag. Like, what client would ever want to hire somebody like that? I don't know. So anyhow, there's just so much stuff out there. Where do you go to get good information? I feel this way about news. It's like, how do you get good news these days? But where do you go to get information? Google's changing, Facebook's changing, LinkedIn is changing. They all seem so complicated. There's more competition on all platforms. Attention span of people is diminishing. There's a lot of noise. Bottom line, it is overwhelming. So we have an unprecedented opportunity right now. I think the next 2 to 3 years would be great if you know how to play the game. I have a typo here. So according to the American Marketing Association, studies show that the average consumer is exposed up to 10,000 brand messages a day. Consumers switch between screens up to 21 times an hour, according to a British study. I think it's probably more than that. If anyone's seen my daughter on her phone, it's definitely more than 20, but 21 times a minute maybe. So, but right now, because of the pandemic, there are brand new emerging opportunities to cut through all the clutter. It's like somebody took a giant attention stick and like whacked like the whole market upside the head, and there's brand new attention given to a lot of things. It's like there's this whole level of awareness and openness and research that people are doing. People are now thrust into the things that they've never been in. People are homeschooling who've never homeschooled. There's people who entertainment has changed. So much business has changed, and so there's a great way when there's great change, a great way to capitalize on that and really get people's attention if you do it properly. So if you're good, 1% of prospects will buy right now. And what would you rather do? Compete with everyone else, get as many of these 1% people as possible. And this is very common what people do. Or another thing that's common is taught is to niche down and be the big fish in a littler pond. Nothing wrong with that either. You can be very profitable with it. But how about changing the rules so you don't have to compete, and you can be the big fish in a bigger pond and get 3 to 30x results for lower costs? So how you answer this question will determine the focus for your marketing plan. So, and again, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just whatever's right for you. So just talking with somebody recently, Chris said, this is what I really want. I just really want to know. It's like, all this work I've done for years finally has a purpose. Meaning they've already been successful, but it's like they just see so much more opportunity, so much more potential, and they struggled and built and have so many good things, but now it's like they want something with more of a purpose. So what if you could 2x or 10x or 100x your business and have a greater impact on more people? What if instead of you working hard in your business, you have a business that works hard for you? Again, other way around. Instead of having a job in a business that works for you. And where you work 10 to 20 hours less per week. So again, when you believe in growth and systems, this is what's possible. Without it, it's just fantasy. So there's this visual I saw before that I liked. It's like gravity acts in a certain way, so does hydroelectric power. We can fight it, we can fight that gravity and hydroelectric power works, or you can harness its powers. And marketing and business growth is similar. It is principles that when you follow it, you can harness power and have massive growth. And that's what we want to do. We want to harness these principles and leverage them and put them to work for us. So how do we scale a market big? Well, scaling a market is like this. So there's a blue ocean. People typically want to go to the blue ocean, the mass market, right away. That's a total market. There's a potential market. And this is what we already have right now. And so start here to be the big fish in the little pond. So we want to be the big fish in the little pond first, and then start heading out towards the blue ocean, head out that way. I was showing this to somebody. I said, well, Chris, that's not me. This tiny dot is probably more like where I am right now. And if that's where you are, that's fine too, because it's like, if you've got something really important, and you're really good at, you can take that and you can leverage that and you start scaling out. So think of these as concentric circles. And I'll come to that in a second, where you'll see how that relates to what I'm talking about. So, but we want to go this way, not so much the other way. So the engineered marketing way. So scaled growth. Here are different components and different aspects, and we're going to go through these. Scaled growth, three-legged stool, client acquisition systems with 3 types of leads we'll target, leads methodology, and then leads everywhere. Your BME, ability to not be pandered to. When you understand marketing, what's going on, it really puts you in the driver's seat where you're not being pandered to by sales guys. I had a conversation with a guy yesterday, and started off with a heavy pressure like sales for a client project working on. And it turned out when I went over like the numbers and what we need to do to make it work, conversation completely switched. He says, Chris, he goes, with what we're doing, I can't get you numbers like that with what we're doing. So I said, so what do we do? So he goes, well, and he started coming up with some creative ideas to help us, and with this client project, get more exposure in a completely different way. So when you know what you're talking about, then you have the ability to not be pandered to, and it really helps your conversations with people be a lot more productive. So iron mindset, I got this from doing my Ironman. It's like you just focus and determination. If you can focus on things and you're determined to get after it and stay on it, you can do remarkable things. So engineer marketing works best if you want to have scaled, controlled, and massive growth. So Michael Gerber, he's got this thing. I love him for his simplicity, among other things, but he talks about the three-legged stool. And the 3 legs of the stool are lead generation, lead conversion, and client fulfillment. Lead generation, lead conversion, client fulfillment. So you need all 3 of those legs. If you're missing one, what happens? That stool topples over, right? So you need all 3. You got to get leads, convert those leads into sales, and then deliver on those leads. So if you're on this call, you've already had success. So you've already got client fulfillment in place. Now that may need to be scaled at some point in time, but you've already got that in place. And so really what we want to focus on here is what we do is we're going to build your client acquisition system, which is a lead generation and lead conversion systems. And these are the only 2 things you need to focus on. You can have massive growth if you can focus on getting leads and converting leads. I'm gonna break this down in a second, but here's where it goes wrong. People hop to building launches and funnels or whatever latest gimmick or soup du jour is. And while some of that can be good, not everyone fits into that model. So there's a much better way, because you can't take a lot of people, stuff them into a funnel and make everyone do the same thing. I don't know. I don't work that way. A lot of people I know don't work that way. But there's a better way, to handle it with your marketing. So really there's 3 types of leads: colds, warms, and hots. Not rocket science, but it's true. There's colds, there's warms, and there's hots. If you build a system for handling each, that's all you need to do. So build a system for handling the colds, build a system for handling the warms, build a system for handling the hots. Then that way we can go to the colds. We can find the ones that are warm. We can have our warming system warm the warms until they're hots. And then once they're hots, we have a closing system for the hots. And if we can do that, then there's nothing that can stop you, except for, just whatever your market will provide. So what does this look like? Lead generation is traffic. Lead conversion is the lead warming and lead closing system. So lead generation, that's the colds, lead warming for the warms, and lead closing system for the hots. So we need lead generation system, lead warming system, lead closing system. And how do we do that? The backwards to frontwards principle. So we start off with our lead closing system, then we go to our lead warming system, and then we go to our lead generation traffic. So we build a system so we can close leads. And depends on what your business is. This will look different ways. If you're an e-commerce business, it'll look differently. It might be with more like electronic, like with your sales page, your add to cart remarketing based off of their actions and based off their profile. If you're in retargeting with different offers, if you're professional services business, then it's this whole could be a whole like phone conversation, whole scripted conversation of how that goes, and also using technology. So I had one client recently that they were doing very well, but when we went over their lead closing system, how they handled their hots, for them to book an appointment, it went between her to her assistant to the prospect, and several emails back and forth, several texts back and forth with prospect and then with the owner who was doing the meetings. And it was just a scheduling like nightmare. So we completely re-engineered and changed all that. So somebody automatically, and actually when we added lead generation systems in, what happens is somebody hits a site, they're interested, they're warmed, and then they fill out an application and they fill out a questionnaire telling about their situation, and they book a time on the client's calendar. So the client opens up their email and they've got a book time on their calendar, and they've got a filled out questionnaire with what their problems are, what the situation is, and what they're looking for. So they know right away, hey, I can help this person, I can't, and they've got a book time. So no interaction, nothing like that. So let's free them up. So now instead of handling, like they can handle way more people than they could before. So there's this looks differently based off of what your business is and what the business model is. But again, think, hots, warms, and colds. Lead closing system first, lead warming system, and then focus on lead generation traffic systems. So it's good to think about growth in terms of concentric rings. So this really helps to have massive growth is when you think about this. So picture the dartboard like we have here. And so the dart right now is in the bullseye. And that's really the core of where you want to start. You start with a message to market match, the people who you're working with right now, who you've got a really good fit with. So you want to grow and develop your systems, your colds, warms, and hots, your lead closing system, lead warming system, and lead generation systems. Develop those with your existing hot, like bullseye traffic. And then as those systems will work and proven that they work, then you start expanding out in concentric rings to bigger and bigger audiences until you hit a point where it's like, what, hey, this is too, like this isn't profitable at this level, and then you bring it back in a little bit. So here's what to do. You focus, you test, and you grow. You focus on the market that you want to grow. You build and test your systems. And when your systems are producing at a level, then you start growing those systems out. That's how you do it very cost accountable in a very systemic and scaled way. So scaling the market, remember we talked about this before in an earlier slide. So what we want to do is we want to go from smaller to bigger. Picturing the dartboard, we start off and we want to be the big fish in the little pond. We want to focus on that dartboard, our ideal market, or who are serving really well right now. And then we want to grow that out to the bigger market, and then grow that out to an even bigger market. We want to keep it with that mindset in place. So then when people are going, sometimes when people are going from where they are now to a bigger market, it can be difficult because they try to do what they did to this bigger market, but changing it up into like a digital product or webinar or something like that. It doesn't really work exactly the way they thought. So there's a much better way to roll it out. Best to roll it out when you're growing bigger markets, to have a pilot program. Develop your prototype. Did that in engineering. Michael Gerber talks about that a lot. So you build your prototype, you build your pilot program to test it. And then, so you build your pilot program, get that working. And then there's 4 paths that people go on, and then we add different traffic sources. I'll talk about the 4 paths in a couple slides from now. But again, we want to start off with our target market into who are existing serving, maximize that while we're building our systems, roll it out to our ideal market, and then roll that out to bigger things. And that works very well with different traffic sources, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Google, whether it's YouTube. This works very well with that because it feeds their algorithms and lets their algorithms grow without you just losing a ton of money in the process. Very controlled growth like this. So I believe in this aim small, miss small methodology, where you really want to focus on who you're looking at. There's a movie, The Patriot, with Mel Gibson. I don't know if you saw that or if you remember that, but in the movie, Mel Gibson's older son had gotten kidnapped and was being taken away for execution. So he set up an ambush with his 2 young sons on the hill, and he gave them rifles. He says, "Remember what I taught you, boys?" They said, "Yeah, Dad. Aim small, miss small." Meaning, if you aim for the guy on the horse, you're probably going to miss him. But if you aim for the 3rd button down on his jacket, you may not hit that button, but you're going to hit him. So when we're building our systems out, we want to focus, again, back to the bullseye. I know I'm probably pounding this too much on the ground, but it's really important concept. So you start with your core business concept and ideal prospect, and you get that working. So 2 good questions to always ask is, my core business is all about, and my ideal prospect is someone who. You fill in those questions, you answer those questions, and you focus on that, because I'm telling you, it is so easy to start branching out and spidering out and going off into like different directions on different things. So you keep that focus. So if you can keep that focus and develop your systems around which core business is all about, who your ideal prospect are, then you've got something very scalable, and you can create a very profitable business. So I talked about 4 paths. There's really like 4, so a lot of times people will be, Chris, should I do a webinar? Should I do, I need to have a white paper, an opt-in, or a quiz, or a guide, or something like that, or, there's just a lot of conflicting things on there. So I had this process map that I work with on all client projects. So there's really like 4 paths that people can take to you. One is you run an ad, which is this path 1 across the top. So you run an ad, and it goes directly to a sales page, or they either buy your product or service, or request a consultation. So it's just direct to the meeting or to the sale. And then second one is you run an ad to a webinar. And the ad, it can be a paid ad, or it can be, a message. It can be a social media, it can be an email, it can be, LinkedIn connection, it can be something, any type of message. So you can invite them to a webinar. I invited you guys, to a webinar, and you're here. So it's like, there, people will take that path. Some people say, you know what, I'm not ready to meet with you or buy, but I am willing to invest, 30 minutes or 60 minutes to learn more. So great. A third path is, hey, I'm not willing to spend 30, 60 minutes there, but I am willing to spend, 5 minutes. I'm interested enough to give 5 minutes of my time to opt in and get this free ebook, or take this quiz, or get this guide or something to learn a little bit more. And then there's going to be people who are saying, you know what, I don't want to give my email to nobody, but I will take 30, 60 seconds and read an article, or watch a video, or read a blog post, or something like that. So what you can do is you can take these 4 different paths. So if you just do this, then you can develop a custom audience on different ad platforms, retarget those, and run messages to bring them to the next step in the process. Again, this is colds, these are warms, and these are hots. We build a system for the hots, build a system for the warms, and we build a system for the colds. And systems won't look exactly like this, but these are some pieces of it. And so the thing is which one should you do? Well, let me ask you, if they're all profitable, why not do them all, right? And so where these circles are, picture we put a meter in it, and then and that meter is just telling us if we're profitable or we're not profitable. If we're not profitable, we turn it off. If we are profitable, we crank it up. And the ones that are the most profitable, we crank up the most. So picture having a system where you've got these different paths working for you, and it's going to take time to get there. But picture having this, in place. You're going to have a pretty solid and secure business. That's going to be hard for somebody to come in and disrupt or put you out. You're going to have a real good foothold in the business. So technical stuff that you'll need. You're going to need a website. You're going to need positioning. We're going to need education building, or education is just trust build marketing. A lot of people, it's like people don't trust much these days because there's just so much garbage and bad information and misinformation out there. It's like you don't know who to trust. So how you build trust, and I'll show that in a couple slides, is with education. We educate them, and that's going to build trust. And with better positioning, where we separate ourselves, where we rewrite the rules, so we're the only ones in the market and we're not competing with everybody else. So, and then technology, you'll need to capture leads, you need to do automated sales or automated messaging, email blasts, webinars, free reports, offers, etc. These are different technology pieces. Again, I'm very familiar with a lot of technology out there. I've used a lot of things, whether it's MailChimp, Infusionsoft, Keep, ActiveCampaign, Aweber, on and on and on. Analytics, different traffic platforms. There's a lot of different technology that you need. But again, this is not what's important. What technology is not what's important. It's the overall system. Colds, warms, hots. Colds, warms, hots. That's what's important. And then having a very focused, broken down system to go after them. So, and then you need tracking, analytics, and KPIs, key performance indicators, so you know how well you're doing. So the goal is to get to a point where for every dollar you spend on advertising, you get more than $1 back. And that's a good thing. So we want to attract, people, and I've got this leads methodology where there's, again, 3 types of leads: colds, warms, and hots. We'll focus on colds, warms, and hots leads, have a system for handling each, and that's it. So best, we talked about building trust. Here's how to build trust. What we want to do is we want to build a bond with people. We want to have a message that resonates, and we want them to see us everywhere. So we have a connection with people, meaning, hey, you know what? This guy makes sense, or this gal makes sense. I like this guy. He gets me. He's talking about my problems, talking about what I'm experiencing. I like what they have to say. I want to learn more. And then you have a message that's a good message to market match. And it's different from everyone else. You're not saying the same thing or regurgitating the same thing. You've got differentiation, something different. And people will equate different with better, especially when you're talking to what's important to them. And then, again, they're going to say, hey, this makes sense. And you give value in your message. And then if they start seeing you everywhere, you become ubiquitous. You become more well-known. You're giving value everywhere they see you. Your voice is known and heard, and your message starts sinking in. And then this is easier to build an audience this way, because a lot of times you can give the same message to somebody, have somebody watch the same video like 3-4 times before they'll finally watch it. They'll watch it, but they won't pay attention to it. So sometimes it takes a while. But when you've got a message and people see you everywhere, they know you. Hey, I know what this guy's about. Again, guy, gal, interchange of words. You have a bond with them, and the message resonates with them. It's like, man, it's like, I trust you. And then if they have a bond with you and they see you everywhere, it's like, hey, I like you. And then so if they know you, like you, trust you, then that's when the magic happens, and that's where sales happen, and that's where growth happens. So we want to include this in a system. So imagine having a strong bond, an attractive and different message where they see you everywhere. Now imagine doing this with one person hundreds of times a day. Imagine you're only required to set up the systems, and then the rest automatically happens. Well, what impact could you have? So get your systems working on one traffic source, and then grow that source exponentially, and then expand. So get it working on one source. Remember the bullseye target. Get it working. Your system's working on one source. Expand that source, exponentially, as big as you can get that. And then you take that message, because it's the same message. All a traffic source is a different way to leverage your message. So Google never buys anything, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. None of these people have ever bought anything from my clients. What they are is they're a medium or media to reach people. So if you've got a message and you're able to break that down, maybe I'll do a different webinar one day on this, how to break your message down. But you break it down to smaller bite-sized pieces, then you get the same message, same way to attract people, to message out to the colds, identify the warms, give them more information, educate them, to become hots. So then expand to other traffic sources, expand out to LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Google, YouTube, trade journals. These are all systems and platforms that we've used, plus a bunch of other ones. Now it's even more popular and even more effective is having a combination of them all working together. And that's really not as complicated as it can be. When you're staring them all in the face, it's like, wow, this is a lot. Which ones do I start with? Which one's best for me? I get it. But when you see how to put these systems together and grow and scale it out, then it's like, oh, I get it. And so you become very confident and that very methodical in the implementation and roll it up. I've got a video of this on my website. There's no opt-in. You can just go and see it. chrisgoegan.com/scale. I think it's about a 5-6 minute video on it, where I go at how we did this and brought in like thousands of leads for a client. So so here's different scenarios. Picture this: you're spending $1,000 in ads, making $3,000 profit. How often would you want to do that? That's a client say, hey, I'd want to do that at least 3 times. So you're spending $5,000 ads, making $10,000 to $15,000 profits. How often would you want to do that? Monthly, weekly, daily? If you could do that on one traffic source, how many traffic sources would you want feeding results like that? So again, we want to get things working properly on one platform, expand it exponentially as much as we can, and then take that, because we've already got the sales messaging down, and then put that on different traffic platforms. So let's build the systems to do that. So I've got this methodology I created. It's called leads methodology. Everyone wants leads. So every time we start off with getting leads from a program, the first question is always like, who are we going to market to? What's the list? So lead stands for list, educate, amplify attention, desire, and then ask for a sale or sell the next step in the process. So everything is always like, hey, you know what? It doesn't matter if we're doing to colds, to warms, to hots. It's always okay. Who are we marketing to? And then let's picture those. So we got our list. If we're doing like marketing on any traffic platforms, like who are we marketing to? What are the problems? What are they going to have? How do we educate them so we can remember bond message everywhere? So we can develop the message to build that trust and the bond to educate them. And then how do we build in the messaging something to amplify their attention, to grow more of their attention, to create, when we've got more of their attention, they're going to invest more time, and then their desire and decision to take action is going to grow more. And then we can much easier sell them on the next step, which is, it could be a sale, or it could just be like to move on one of the different 4 paths, to opt in or attend a webinar, or to schedule a call or follow-up call, or whatever it is. So you have we have this leads methodology where we roll it out. And so we create a system for colds, warms, and hots. We focus on leads with the 4 paths, the leads, what I just showed you on the last slide. We get conversions coming in, aim small, miss small, test small. We establish acceptable CPLs and CACs. CPL is cost per lead. CAC is client acquisition cost. This is where the math of marketing works, where if you're selling a high ticket item, I had a client that was selling a $6,000 service. And then when I went through and looked at his numbers, at his math, it was costing him $4,000 to $5,000 to make a $6,000 sale. And he was blown away when I showed him that. And I showed him the CPL. It cost him almost $200 for one phone call. He was blown away. Then when I showed him how the phone calls were handled, he was even more blown away. We worked on his systems, his closing systems and his warming systems, and we're able to bring that down. Cost per lead and acquisition costs, instead of $4,000 or $5,000 acquisition costs, we're able to get that down under $1,000. Acquisition cost, I think it's about $600. So now all of a sudden you see, well, what impact did that have? How much more money could you spend on marketing, on advertising, on growing, expanding, on new relationships, on new ventures, on new products, on new services? You get the idea. We're all good at coming up with new and wonderful things to do, but you got to understand that the math to your business. I had a client that, he says, Chris, he goes, when I understood my math, he goes, it made contract renewals with advertisers so much easier. So he goes, I had, one guy, he says, hey, it's time to renew your contract. And he goes, I looked at the contract they had, said, I can't afford this. It's like, this is how much I spent with you, so much I got in sales, this is how many leads I got. So in order for this math to work, I need you to drop your price from here to here. And if you can't do it, that's fine. I understand. If you can do it, great. So then the advertiser said, okay, I want the business. So they lowered it to match his number. So it just makes life so much easier. Makes it less emotional and more predictable. And with some predictability comes some excitement. So you get the math, and you scale the math, and then you scale the client fulfillment systems as needed. And then you add traffic sources, and you roll out other digital, non-digital platforms. So, and then you put a meter on all traffic sources and measure the results, improve what's working, get rid of what's not. So it's important to think modular like an engineer. So here's a summary of engineer marketing scale growth rollout. So aim small, miss small, focus, develop your pilot, establish positioning with the Zumba effect. This is a conversation I had with one of the founders of Zumba. If I have time, I'll talk about that a little bit later. You develop your system for colds, warms, and hots. Use BME and leads methodology, and then get leads everywhere. You launch to establish cost per lead and client acquisition costs. You expand your concentric circles. You expand systems as needed. This is where you can expand and add technology, or expand and add staff. So I've had people where, first we grew out their client acquisition side so they could handle a lot more people, a lot more business. And then their next bottleneck is the things that reduce output. So in an engine plant, if we were making 1,000 engines a day and every engine had to be tested, but we could only test 500 a day. So we can make 1,000, but we could only test 500 a day. Well, the testing station would become the bottleneck, because it didn't matter how many we could make, we could only test 500. So there's always something that's going to limit growth, and that's your bottleneck. So we'll look at, we're always looking at eliminating the bottlenecks. And maybe that might be hiring in salespeople, but by that time you've already got your sales talk and your lead closing system already done. So, and then you fine tune and optimize, and you capitalize on this rare snapshot in time. I was talking with a guy, and he goes, Chris, I think that we have two major opportunities in our life. And he goes, I believe that this is one of them right now. So case studies, I talked about some of these. I'm not really gonna go into them a whole lot right now. There's different things. Tim went from $5 million to $10 million a year while cutting $2 million in costs with this approach. And he said, Chris, he goes, by the way, I don't have time to work with you. You're gonna work with my operations manager. And then she's like, Chris, she goes, I've only got 2 hours a week. And I said, great, that's all you need. And so 2 hours a week, we went from 5 million to 10 million in a year while cutting $2 million in costs. Chuck went from 6.8 million to 15 million in a collapsing market. We did this by changing his, altering his positioning. So he was in a market of one, and we're able to raise his prices in a market where everyone's slashing dollars on it. Real Truth About Health, it went from nothing to the world's largest conference in a very short period of time. Another client is going through record growth during this pandemic. Others, a bunch of different case studies. I'm sure we can talk about more like some other time. So how long does a traditional way take? Typically clients waste 2 to 3 years of time, and my typical client burns about $25,000, not to mention opportunity cost of lost time by doing things a traditional way, by not doing this engineered approach. One said he burned 7 figures and he ended up going out of business. And sadly, he was a market leader at one time in $1 billion market. He was actually ahead of 5 Hour Energy, and they've kind of gone on to good things, and he's fallen off into obscurity. So how long does it take? 3 months to build your foundation, the rest of the year to fine tune, and the next year to grow. So again, to build your foundation, to build your foundational systems. So typically in 3 to 12 months, clients typically see 25 to 200% growth with the systemic approach. In 1 to 2 years, you can 2x to 10x your business. And with what we're seeing right now, we're seeing businesses have record growth with reduced ad spend. So it's like you got to build your foundation. Typically, I see about 3 months to do that. You spend the rest of the year, and then you're doing your pilot programs and getting initial feedback. And I like to see growth in that period of time. And then you're spending the rest of the year dialing and optimizing and fine tuning that out. And then you're looking for what Malcolm Gladwell would call this a tipping point, where you're spending $1 in advertising and it's coming back producing a return. So I have a client, it's like, we've got an initial offer where it's a $40 offer. It's like, all right, so we're getting, so once we're under $40, on some of these new programs, and then there's a continuity program behind that. It's like, if we could be profitable at $40, how much you give me $40 and I give you the $40 back plus a bunch on the back end. How many times would you want to do that? This is a lot. So it's you can have the scale growth when you hit this tipping point. That's where you have the hockey curve, where you do all this work and then you hit this point where your systems are working and you're getting the returns, and then things can just take off right there. And with what we're seeing right now, we're seeing a record spend on as far as we're seeing ad costs at levels we haven't seen in almost a decade right now. So one client during this pandemic, his sales grew 250% in April. May will set a new record. Already surpassed April. We still got several days left. June should surpass that as well. And there's emerging new opportunities to grow to an even bigger level now that we're exploring. So how long will it take for you will depend on the market, how you're positioned in your growth strategy. So what we're seeing right now is ad cost level that haven't been at in almost a decade. Seeing on some projects, we're seeing cost per lead $1.50 to $2.25, where it should have been about 10 times that much in cost per lead. And again, these numbers vary by markets. Acquisition costs are similarly much lower. And we're seeing because cost per leads are lower. So, if you close 1 out of 10 or whatever, 5 out of 10, where the numbers are, the acquisition costs we're seeing are very much lower compared to before. In fact, a lot of big advertisers have pulled out of markets. A lot of advertisers have pulled out of markets with the pandemic. If you had, because all these places, they're basically like auctions. If you have 100 people auctioning for 10 things, well, what's it going to do to the price? It's going to bump it up, right? If you have 3 people auctioning for those 10 things, what's that going to do? It's going to bring the price way down. So that's what we're seeing right now. So, so it's prime time to communicate the value of the service you provide, and which is typically difficult for business owners because they're so caught up in doing the technical work, not the marketing. But if it's a great time to communicate the value we have. So my goal for you with everything I do, this is my whole core of my platform. I want you to understand how marketing works. I want you to understand how to grow and scale a business. I want you to have massive and sustained success, not fly by night, like, hey, we did this thing and, did this launch and had success and then that was it. No. I want you to have massive and sustained success. When I talk about marketing, I want you to have such good understanding that you won't have to buy anything. I know you will, but I don't want you to have to buy anything. I want it to be the last program you'll ever need. And I want you, the biggest thing is I want you to eliminate confusion, frustration, overwhelm. You're not going to get 5,000 templates. You're not going to get it's just, I want you to build confidence in what you're doing. So you can say, hey, I can do this. I can do this. Doing that with my wife on a homeschool project. She's like, oh my gosh, I get this. So it's fun when that happens. So I have this program coming up, and which I'll take about a couple minutes and just explain that, where we're going to engineer and build your master growth system. So imagine having a business model that excites you, having a plan to get there, having a step-by-step, do this, do that, guidance where you're taken by the hand and led down the right path, working with clients and team members that love and appreciate what you're building for them, building a business where you don't have to do everything, experiencing little wins that turn into progressively bigger wins, and gaining confidence. This is what I love. It's like people say, oh my gosh, hey, I can do this. And then working in group environment where everyone's encouraging and uplifting. So this is this 3-month program that I have. It's starting June 2nd. Got several spots filled. I think there's a couple spots remaining. So we're meeting weekly on Zoom. It's going to be a small group setting, and we're going to go over some theory so you'll understand big picture. A lot of the pieces of what we talked about today, but then we're actually going to peel off the layers and get in some of the actual details of it. So we're going to go over theory to understand the big picture, and then we're going to roll up our sleeves and we're going to build hots, system for hots, system for warm, system for colds, and we're going to build these CWH, cold, warm, hot systems. We're going to add traffic sources and technology, and we're going to build it out. It's not just learn, it's learn and do. So do is a big part, learning and doing. Collaboration, work with other growth-minded businesses, all in similar boats that have hit one level of success and want to get to a whole new level, from different backgrounds. Got some wonderful people in there. To qualify for this, you can't just sign up for it. You go to chrisgoegan.com/growth or email me, and then we'll talk to see if it's a good fit. If it is, we'll both know, and you'll be invited in. If it's not, that's fine. No harm, no foul. So here's part of what we'll cover. How scalable are you? The GYR assessment. We're going to develop your master growth plan for your business. And I'm going to show you how businesses are adding 5 and 6 figures per month out of thin air. We're going to build your $1 billion brand. Conversation I had, again, I don't think I'll talk real briefly about it. Founder of Zumba and we had a wonderful conversation, and he talked about how he entered into a $1 billion market. They were nothing, nobody, they hadn't even started yet, and how they attacked it with branding. I'm a direct response guy, meaning it's like, I care less about branding. It's like you put $1 in, and I want that dollar to come back yesterday with a return on it. But this conversation changed how I looked at branding, and I believe that branding is a really important thing, especially these days right now. And just when I went through this branding exercise with somebody, I created this real simple exercise based from this conversation I had with the founder. And one client, he went and he got back to me after learning. He said, Chris, I made 6 figures in this week just from doing that alone. We're going to go over that. We're going to go over that in week 2. And we're going to create your $1 billion brand. And then how to stand out in a crowded market. So the only one your market that your market wants to work with, we're going to go over that in week 3. So there's no competition. We're going to go over quick wins and determining viability and creating profit without spending money. We're going to go over that in week 4. So not only are we building systems, but we're also looking for quick wins. Because again, I want to get you confident. I want to get you some little wins so they can lead to bigger wins, to medium wins, and then to even bigger wins. We're going to set up systems for the hots. We're going to determine for your unique situation, the best traffic sources to get those hots and the technology you need. And then we're going to set that system up. We're going to build it. So you've got to implement it, done, in place, functional and working. That's week 5. Week 6 is setting up the system for the warms, best traffic sources for those, and creating campaigns to get after them. That's in week 6. Week 7, we're going to scale those campaigns for profit. And we're going to scale them for massive growth. That's week 7 on. And so we're going to spend majority, after we build there's some very key foundational things and some other things I didn't include on here. We're going to build, but then the last half is going to be really building and fine tuning and growing these systems out for you so you can have growth, so you can get to your goals. So who's this for? You have a business, and you can read this. You don't need me to read this to you. Basically, it's like no newbies. It's like you're already been successful, one level, you want to get to another level, or you've already been successful. And like I had clients that are built massive companies and want to start something new who started working. So if they've already had success, looking to start something new, then that's big for you as well. Marketing and sales aren't working the way you want. Marketing is based off 1 or 2 traffic sources. If they went dry, well, life would stink. Maybe new to the internet as a way to get leads in business, or maybe it's worked or hasn't worked the way you hope it would, or a way you're. It's hard for me to say. I don't know why. This is key. You're determined to 2x or 10x your business in the next 12 to 24 months, and you're ready to take action on strategies and tactics that are proven. And you're teachable and not afraid of work. So teachable, not afraid of work, and determined to grow. That's really what I'm looking for, and somebody who's in a growth market. So you understand you don't just start a mechanism instantaneously and expect it to work at peak performance right away. Momentum needs to be built. You need some little successes before you can have medium successes and then big successes. That's what a client sent to me, and I just loved it, so I just copied it on here. So this program, it's $7,500 for total for the 3 months. Starts June 2nd. Here's the value. So weekly group calls, $7,500 for that. You get 3 private sessions with me. It's $2,500 value. Our cold warms hot systems, I charged $25,000 for that. That's included with this. And then we're going to give you various campaigns and structures, $2,500 value. And there's actually some other things I'm looking at, just trying to figure out logistically how it will work. So total value is $37,500. The amount is $7,500. Again, if you want to schedule that for here, I have a guarantee. I was starting to put all these things out, if you don't believe you have the ability to add an additional 25 to 200% in the next 3 to 12 months, if you don't believe you can grow another 2x to 10x the next 1 to 2 years, then send us a copy. At the end of week 3, send us a copy of your notes, and we'll issue an immediate and courteous refund at that time. But really, it's like, this is what summed it up. It's like talking to somebody and it hit me. It's like, this is what I need to put on. So look, by the end of the 3rd week, you should be saying, holy smokes, Chris. You can say it Canadian or not Canadian. But you should be saying, holy smokes, Chris, this is awesome. I get it. I can do this. If you don't feel like this is happening, then get a hold of me. We'll talk. If we can work it out, great. If we can't, I'll just refund you your money. So sampling of results. Doubled business from 10 million to 10 million, saved 2 million expenses. Added $135,000 in 6 weeks, and then 7 figures. This was just one of my favorite things Michael said to me. It was very kind of him. Another company grew from 4 million to 20 million in 18 months. You guided me to one of the most single important missing pieces of my business to get to the next level. Blah, 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 blah. My wife is very happy with me. Another grew 250% in April. So this is stuff it's worked. It's worked over time, and it's working right now. And we're going to go over all that. And not only we're going to go over it, but we're actually going to build it out. But the key is what I went over with you earlier, cold, warms, hots, that works. And whether you do this program or don't do this program, if you focus on that, it's so simple, but if it gives you solid singular focus, and then building it out, and then feeding the right traffic source, which we'll go over in this program, feeding the right traffic source into that, then you can have great growth. So this one client, he sent me this email when I first launched this. Funny thing was, I told him, it's like, when he applied for it, it's like, I honestly don't think I can help you. His market was a real stretch for me. He goes, I want to do it anyhow. So like, okay. So he said this year was transformational. He reached his income target for the year. He sent this to me. It's like at the end of the year. He says next year's target. Next year hadn't even started. He already surpassed his target for that year. And then, so he reset his goal. He sent me a couple other messages throughout the year saying he had to keep resetting his goals because he kept passing them. But I think like this is what he said. It was that it's transformational, that you need to stay with it and stay on it. So this program starts June 2nd. We're going to meet weekly on Zoom, small group setting. There's theories, so you'll understand the big pictures, and we're going to roll up our sleeves and create. We're going to create the cold, warms, hot systems and traffic sources and technologies so we can build it out for you. Different traffic sources for different people based off their situations. It's not one shoe fits all. It's what's best for you and for your situation. So I'm taking what I've done in my consulting business and I'm making it into way more affordable in a small group setting. So it's intimate, and other growth-minded business owners where everyone can collaborate and help give different perspectives. I'm telling you, some of the people in here, there's a lot of different backgrounds in here that will, it's gonna be a fun setting. So anyhow, if this is for you, go ahead, email me or, fill out the form on this page and we'll talk, see if it's a good fit. So here's the dramatic close. Okay, thank you for allowing me to share. And I humbly mean that. It's like, thank you so much. I'm probably gonna be doing more of these just because I want to. I want to bring more value to people. And so if this was, I don't know if this was valuable or not. If it was, please comment in the chat if it was. If you want to schedule a qualifying call, go here and do that. So I am going to all right, I'm going to stop share, and that's it. So all right, so I just want to thank everybody for showing up, and I hope it was valuable. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'll go through the chat and see if I can get back to and answer all the questions in there. But anyhow, thanks for coming out, and we will talk to you soon. All right. Oops, let me. All right. Okay, you're welcome. You're welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming. All right, let's see ya.